not gonna sit down. Actually, the first thing we're gonna do in this interview.
Oh, what? Oh man, that's so great.
This was like when I saw the movie the first time. The Red Dragon scene absolutely stood out to me. I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting fortune cookies.
Yeah, no, that's all time.
Any troubles you may have will pass very shortly.
That's a classic. Being aware of your fears will improve your life within the week.
In the week.
Yeah.
There you go. But there's another
of
time.
interviews. So overcoming now.
Well, this will be a good one. Let's talk about the technicals of the film because it is beautiful to look at.
Cool.
Just very beautiful to watch. There are definitely some scenes, especially like at the orchard when they're going through the I think an apple orchard. I think it's gorgeous. Talk about making the technicals of this film pop the way that it does.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll defer so much of that to, we just have the greatest cinematographer, Federico Verardi is his name. And he's a friend that I kind of came up with in the business as an AD. And he just has an eye that was very compatible with this type of movie because he wanted the same thing. And that's what you're looking for, right, is that partnership where it's like, we both wanted this naturalistic feel. We talked about, like, we didn't do as many interesting visual things as like something like Y Tu Mama Tambien, but like, the idea of a road trip and really freeing up the visual language, it's like you can use Steadicam and you can be static and just really use all the tools in the tool belt, even if it's an indie. But he's also one of the great handheld operators, so you have just a lot of flexibility with him as the DP. And we shot on the Venice 2s and, had prime lenses and, it gives it a scope and, you're shooting a 2:3:9 aspect ratio. It's like you want to do the landscape of Washington justice. So you do all the things that, check the boxes to make it feel as big, yet it's an intimate story. So keep it about the characters. And the orchard's a great example of that because it was always about them in a two-shot and keeping it framed in the right light, natural light. And tough though, because you got 30 minutes to get this whole sequence. And it's like, all right, one camera, let's do it. Let's hose it down. But the actors were so game, and so was Fetty, the DP. So that, if there's one thing I'm very happy about in addition to the acting is the cinematography and then the music. Those are like the three things I felt like really they've been very complimentary talking to people about the movie, those aspects, and those are the things I'm like, man, all the collaborators just hit home runs in those particular spots.
They absolutely did. That's incredible. Talk to me about your career so far. You mentioned you're AD. I want to know more about your history in the film world and how you got here.
Well, it's funny. So I was 20 and I was thinking about film school. Writing, directing was always endgame in my mind. And I got an opportunity early in my career to be a production assistant in Spokane through North by Northwest. And that kind of became what was kind of a 15-year film school as an assistant director. Eventually, I had joined the Directors Guild as an AD, and that started kind of taking me around the country, just working in these different tax incentive states, and it became really the foundation for how I figured out my style as a director. And it's funny because directors don't get the opportunity to work with other directors, right? It's like maybe you're a guest on a film set, but when you work, particularly as a first AD, you get this really intimate relationship with the director of photography and director where you're really just trying to serve the story and keep it on schedule and help keep it on budget with the production team. And I think that, again, as we're getting into like, hey, we didn't have much money and much time, that kind of foundation really gave me confidence to swing with this movie because it was wildly ambitious, and had I not had an AD career, I wouldn't have been dumb enough to try and pull it off, because there was some days, like we started a day in Leavenworth, did driving stuff, then we got to Index, did that whole sequence, which is a massive scene, and then we came to Seattle to shoot a night exterior, and then at James's house, and I'm like, whose idea was that? That's like the worst. If as an AD, I would be like, yeah, there's no way you can do this. This is the worst day ever. And but we pulled it off. Everybody was so game. So I think that gave me, again, I've looked at it as like a 15-year film school, just really getting to mix it up on sets. And it's such a different job. It's very logistically focused. But if you keep yourself open to the creative side, it's an opportunity to really be a sponge on a film set.
Yeah, absolutely. I love supporting Washington Film. We were talking about how great it is to have this set in Washington and filmed in Washington. I want to know your insights for other aspiring Washington filmmakers. What kind of fortune cookie wisdom could you impart onto those who might be in Washington State and aspiring to get into filmmaking?
For sure, more optimistic, like I said, than the movie. It's funny, and I think that was another piece. I'm so glad that you asked the question, because it was such a key part of making this movie, was this new small budget production initiative that Washington Filmworks does. And it's essentially exclusive to Washington filmmakers, and anything from 20,000, I think, to under $1 million, but staying just under $1 million budget-wise. You're eligible for part of their incentive that they carve out, I think, $3 million for it. And it's just going to be to support local filmmakers. And so I think we were in the second round of that, and I was like, it's really like this call to action for all local filmmakers. If you have a script, submit it in one of their rounds, and hopefully it's selected. I was fortunate to get selected. And it's truly just developing a local creative economy. And I think having done, I've worked in Mississippi and Georgia and Ohio and New Mexico and all these other incentive states that have massive incentives. None of them have this. It's really like, hey guys, 20% of our incentive is geared towards creative local filmmakers and giving them an opportunity to tell their stories. And it doesn't have to be $1 million story. It can be, $50K, but they're willing to come in for a portion of it. And ultimately, I think we're still going through like the audit process, but it'll be about a third of our movie was financed by the state and Washington Filmworks. So that's the difference between the movie ending and maybe Index and not making it all the way to the coast, right? We run out of money before we get there. But
like a good road trip, you have to always keep that in mind.
Exactly. You got to make sure, you got to keep gas in the car, and you got to make it to the end. But yeah, so what Amy Lillard and her team at Filmworks has put together, I really can't speak highly enough about it. And I spend a lot of time in Cincinnati, and I was talking to their film commissioner, and they were just thought it was the greatest idea ever. And I think it'll start to get implemented other places, because hopefully it's just a big success, and Evergreens hopefully is a part of that. And if anything, just a reminder, if somebody's sitting at home and has a script and they're like, man, I'm having trouble getting funding, like they're the jumping off point to help get that started. And we're so supportive through the whole process and continue to be. So it's yeah, I'm a big fan of the SBPI, I think they call it.
Very cool. Your film, as of now, it has its premiere tomorrow, which I'm super excited for you for, especially with the fact that it's currently on standby. That much demand for seeing this film. Like, what's the feeling right now?
It's still a little surreal, for sure. And I think just anxious a little bit, just excited to get it out and see what people think. It's like, it's one of those things where you're always going to be a little nervous, you're always going to be very excited, and it's just a matter of trying to take a step back and enjoy it. It's like so many people put so much work into the movie, and I'm so proud of our whole team and what we were able to accomplish. And it being a love letter to Washington, and being able to show it with people who also love the area is a special thing. So I'm just excited and just gonna ride the wave.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations, Jared. I'm really happy for you and for this film, and I can't wait for more people to see it.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.